Landscape Photography World, the podcast for everyone passionate about landscape photography. I'm Grant Swinburne and I'll be your host on this show, talking to landscape photographers about their motivations, what photography means to them, and to dig a little deeper into the way they think about their photography. Tasmania's wilderness photographer, Cam Blake, reflects on a lifetime shaped by the landscapes of Australia, beginning with childhood explorations in northeast Victoria. Now an accredited and commercially licensed photographer, Cam is known for his deep connection to remote places and for capturing the raw, rugged character of Tasmania's wild environments. His imagery has appeared in major publications, including Australian Geographic, Olympus in the UK and US, and Wild Outdoor magazine, showcasing both his technical skill and his profound respect for nature. Cam explains that he's always approached photography with a scientific curiosity rather than a purely artistic mindset, yet the emotional pull of the natural world remains at the heart of his work. Beyond creating images, he's dedicated to helping others grow as photographers through multi-day workshops across Tasmania and mainland Australia. He offers hands-on guidance, inspiring participants to develop their craft whilst immersing themselves in spectacular wilderness settings. He speaks candidly about the realities of running a photography business, the importance of preserving memories through images, and the therapeutic value photography can offer in an increasingly fast-paced world. Cam also shares his thoughts on the future of the industry, its challenges, its rewards, and the enduring power of connecting people to wild places through visual storytelling. I hope you enjoy the show. G'day, Cam. Welcome to Landscape Photography World. Great to have you on the show.
Thanks, Grant. How are you going today?
Yeah, pretty good. And yourself?
Yeah, right. Yeah, doing all right. Yeah, just getting geared up for Christmas and New Year's and all that fun and jazz that happens at this time of year. So, yeah.
It's always a hectic time, isn't it?
It's a crazy time. And, if you're running a business as well, it's a silly time. Don't call it the silly season for no reason, that's for sure.
Absolutely. Well, we're not here to talk about Christmas. Let's talk about photography.
Yeah, that's a topic I can talk about. Christmas, I'm happy to avoid.
Yeah, same here. You've been a photographer for some time. Why are you a photographer and why do you love landscape so much?
Good question. Yeah, been a photographer for a while. A bit like everyone, well, most people, they got into it when they were a kid, either through high school or parents had a camera or whatever it might be. But for me, I think landscape for me was always just that getting away from it. My grandparents lived up in northeast Victoria, which is a really nice sort of part of the Victorian Alps. So we used to visit them all the time. And I don't know, there's something about the mountains and just drew me to sort of taking photos of those amazing scenes that you see when you're driving up roads or up Mount Buffalo or Mount Hotham or something like that. So I think photography was just a way for me to take those memories back and relive them. Well, you can, and I think back in the day when it's film, you would have shot film as well. But I think the excitement of not knowing what you got until you got the film back and then sort of working on that to try and get better each time. I think, so yeah, the beauty of the landscape, but also I think that the mystery and challenge of what you might get a nice photo of and then, go back and try again type of thing. So,
yeah, nice.
But yeah, it's always been fun.
So recording is where a lot of people start their landscape journey. It's about recording a holiday or recording an experience or whatever. At some point, I think a lot of us have this change come over us and we go, oh, this is actually a art form. I want to get creative with it. Where did that start for you?
That's a funny question, actually. And I get asked a lot of that sometimes as well. Like where did it start? And I actually struggle to say that I am an artist. Like I love my music and I love paintings and things like that. But when I look at my stuff, I don't look at myself at the same level as someone who can play a guitar or a piano or someone who can paint a landscape and mix colors. And it's maybe it's a bit cheeky against all photographers, but I don't see me as an artist. So okay. I don't know when that clicked in for me. I don't know when I started thinking, well, that looks pretty. I could maybe try and do this and try and do that. Or I think just over time, my eye just got better at seeing compositions and seeing light and understanding how the camera works and then sort of going from there. But I don't think I ever sort of sat down and really took the artist path to it as such. Photography for me was always a getaway. It was always let's get out of the city. Let's go for a hike for a couple of days. Let's go for a drive out to the country or whatever. It was always that time for myself. And I think when I did a course at RMIT in Melbourne, and most people were doing the art course, the graphic design and the graphic artist and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I actually went and did the scientific photography. I went the other way, and I've always enjoyed the magic of how it all happens. The light in the film, the light in the sensor, the optics, and things like that. So, yeah, I actually say to a lot of people, I don't consider myself an artist in the sense of the word. And everyone disagrees with me. They all say, "Oh no, but you are an artist. You do this and you do that." But for me, it's always I get a real buzz out of the science of it all. How the hell does that bit of light get put on
generate a pixel somewhere? Yeah.
Generate a pixel, or how does it transform onto a bit of film, and how do we then make it a print and all that kind of stuff? So, I guess I come from it from a different angle. It's probably more of a sciencey background type of thing, and I can appreciate there is some incredible artists and photographers out there who definitely see the world differently to what I see it.
Yeah.
I think I'm just lucky that maybe I've got a nice eye for things and I can understand light a bit. But yeah, definitely the art journey probably never really happened for me as such. It's probably more the science and the mystery behind how the hell does this all work. So I always say to customers of mine that, and it's going to sound silly, but if I could take any photography skill I had and put it into playing a piano or a guitar as well as I take a photograph, I'd do it in a heartbeat, because I think I get more out of the music and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a bit of a weird one for me, but I'm a little bit different maybe than most photographers, perhaps.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
I guess, where then do you get influenced with your photography? Do you look at other photographers' work? Do you look at other art? And where do the influences come from?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I'm definitely influenced by artists. That's for sure. So for me, early days, it was always a lot of magazines. I used to like the hiking. There was always the Wild magazine and Nat Geo, Oz Geo, all those sort of classic magazines that you'd see in the doctor's office while you're waiting to see the doctor or something like that, or a picture on a wall.
Sure.
Probably my biggest influence would be probably down here in Tasmania, Peter Dombrovskis. Most people should have heard of him. As soon as you moved, and I knew about him before I moved here, but as soon as you moved to Tassie, it's impossible not to see his work, whether or not it's in print form or you're just walking through Cradle Mountain and you go, hang on a sec, I've seen that before. Oh, that's a classic Peter Dombrovskis shot. So he would probably be one of my biggest influences. Today's day and age, when we're flooded with images on social media.
Absolutely.
There is so much influencing happening out there and inspiration happening with other artists. So, whether or not it's local Tasmanian guys down here or whether or not it's guys from the mainland or even overseas, there's always, to me, the influence comes if you're scrolling and you can stop. That's the photographer I'm most likely to go and take a bit more of a look at their work.
Right.
Because it's so easy just to scroll through and go, yeah, I've seen that. Yep. Ayers Rock, seen that. Yep. Seen that. Yep. Seen that. Oh, hang on, I haven't seen that. And that's really cool how they've done that. So yeah, but mostly the old school guys, the guys that shot film were big for me, like Peter Dombrovskis, Ansel Adams, obviously a big one that I learned. We studied a bit of him through uni. Ken Duncan, Peter Eastway, Australian sort of landscape legends. And then I got a good friend like Tom Putt's a good friend of mine. He's got some amazing work. Yep. Adam Edwards out of Broken Hill's got some lovely work. So there's a lot of, all different levels, different age groups, different generations that you get inspiration from, that's for sure.
Yeah, sure. I guess thinking about how that works into your own work, how do your personal experiences or emotions influence the landscapes you choose to photograph, but also the techniques you're using to capture those in your own way?
Yeah, again, good question. So look, I think with things like the Peter Eastways and the Dombrovskises and the Ansel Adams, there's always a foreground interest, and that's something I've always really tried to put in my landscape, is really make that foreground quite big and appealing. And that's how I sort of teach a lot of things as well. So, we can all go to, that amazing place and get the great postcard shot, but sometimes it's better just to look a couple of meters around you. Just, there might be a real gnarly log or a really cool rock formation or a little beautiful stream running through your scene that you can really bring into your shot. So I try and take from that inspiration of those guys to try and bring that into my photography, trying to make, the photo as interesting as it can, get the person to really walk their way through the photo. In regards to emotions of shots, one of the big ones for me, and I keep harping back to music, but if I'm going out somewhere, I'll always have some music on in the car, or, you go hiking, you had a headphone. And if I find sometimes the mood I'm in based on what I'm listening to, or the mood I'm in for the day, will really dictate what sort of photos I go out and take. If I'm in a really crappy mood or a bit down and, just want to take the camera out and go away, I know my photos are going to be a bit darker and a bit more moody and emotional. Yeah. Whereas if I'm, out and with a couple of mates having a good time, the photos are generally bright and happy and, bright sunsets or sunrises and, a bit more easygoing. So, I guess my mood personally probably dictates how I shoot a bit.
Yeah.
And it's funny, I can come back and look at a shoot that I did 2 or 3 months ago somewhere, and I can tell just by the style of how I was shooting, just kind of mood I was in. Like, okay, that's right. I bloody had a fight with someone about something like that, or the missus is on to me about something, so I took an hour off. And so, I think a lot of my personal feelings and emotions do turn out the way the technique I use to shoot and the sort of mood I go for. And then obviously your editing will sort of suit that a bit as well. So, yeah.
What about that shooting to editing process? Do you like separation between the two, or are you straight into it? What sort of?
Yeah, speaking of Christmas, I'm a bit like a kid on Christmas morning. If I know I go out and do a good shot, or feel like I've got a good shot, I want to come home and check it straight away. I want to get that feeling out from the field. I want to get it straight into my editing as quick as I can. But a lot of my editing, I'm very basic with my editing as well. And I think that goes back to shooting film days where you didn't have all the tools to fluff around and make things look prettier. So I'm very much getting it right in camera as much as I can. And my editing, if you look at my images, if I spend more than a couple of 2 or 3, 4 minutes editing a photo and it's not looking how I want it, and I've probably done it wrong in the field, and I get really sort of anal about that. I sort of stop and think, right, you know what, my dad always had a great phrase, you can't polish a turd, but you can roll it in glitter. And that's how I feel with some images that I've made mistakes out in the field, is that I could spend another 20 minutes trying to make this look good. Yeah. But really, deep down inside, I know I've stuffed it up out there. So most likely I'll go back out and try another sort of version of it and stuff like that. So, but I like to get home, and especially when we're doing our tours and workshops, you're out all day with customers, and, you get that an hour or two of your own time in your hotel room. Most people like to, get on the phone to home or go to bed or whatever. Yeah. I like to just load that memory card up. Okay, what did we get today? I know there was a shot from somewhere. Let's have a look and play around with it. So, and then in that way, it's done, it's edited, the memory's cemented, and you can sort of move on. Otherwise, you get home a month later or a week later from a trip, you sort of lose that vibe to it and that excitement around what you saw. And again, I think that's where you then start creating more of a photograph as opposed to editing the photograph you took an hour or two before. So, yeah.
So what about the archive? Are you into going back in and looking at those ones from years ago and saying, the gem here I really missed? I skimmed through and I know the shot that I really loved, but 20 minutes later I took this other one that has just been sitting there, gestating, waiting to be born.
Yeah, guarantee I do that. And I find sometimes when I'm maybe not shooting as much as I want to shoot, or I'm busy, or, home life gets in the way or whatever, that every now and then I'll just come back and go, oh, okay, I went to that place, a couple months ago. I didn't really look at all the shots. I just looked at the ones I thought were okay. Maybe I'll go back and have a look. And there's always gems in there. Well, I think they're gems. Maybe other people don't, but it doesn't matter. That's right. But I always go back and think, oh, okay, cool. That's a shot. And sometimes, as well, as it's good practice just to go and edit something that's maybe not your norm. Yeah. We all have our sort of style, how we want, what we want to shoot and what we want to edit. But sometimes you take a shot that's maybe just outside your comfort zone a bit. And sometimes it's good to go back and say, I don't usually edit these kind of photos, but I'm going to go, whether or not to do it as a black and white, or maybe I'll do something else. Or I think it's good practice to sort of edit different styles of photography as well. So I've been sort of lucky. I've had a fair bit of experience shooting more than landscape. I've done lots of weddings and lots of commercial work and stuff like that. So, you get used to editing shots that you just hate because it's for a job. It's not for your own passion.
Yeah, they're not
they're not for us. So, you're getting paid to make it look pretty for a hotel or make a bride look pretty or whatever. But sometimes going back on some of the old landscape shots, you can look at that and say, well, that's different. I don't usually shoot that style.
Yeah.
But you know what? I'm going to give it an edit, because at some stage down the track, you're going to get a photograph that you do like that's maybe needs to be edited like that. At least you can sort of refer back to that style and style of editing as well.
Sure. Going back to what you said about whether or not someone else likes it, what is it you hope other people take out of your image?
Yeah.
What do you want people? We're all sharing them either on social media or in a gallery or wherever.
Yeah.
What do you hope people take away from your stuff?
Yeah, this is a really interesting question as well, because I'm going to come off as the most arrogant sounding photographer maybe on your show.
Maybe not, but
maybe not.
Go.
But I actually don't care at all what people think of my photographs.
Sure.
Like you said before, exactly. Like, what's it matter? It doesn't matter as long as I like it. And that's the thing for me. My photographs, I love that people like my photographs, and I'm really privileged to be able to do what I do and sell books and prints and things like that. But when it comes to the crunch, I really don't really care what people think, because that's my memory. It's my time out in the field that I get to capture some beautiful parts of Mother Nature. So if people take stuff out of my photography, I love it. That's really lovely, and it's a unique place to be. But it's not what drives me. And my drive is to go and just visit beautiful places and just have those moments. And I do it a lot too. I'll switch the camera off and just watch the moment. Because, you watch so many beautiful moments through your viewfinder. Sometimes it's nice just to switch off and take 30 seconds to breathe it in a bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is a hard one, because then, I've got people booking me to take them on amazing tours all over the place. And if I just come out and say, I don't care what you think of my photos, it sounds a bit rude. So they want to get something out of that. So if I could give an answer to that, what I want people to get out of my photographs is, I think I want people just to appreciate what we live in. Like, we've got such an amazing planet that we live on. And, every corner's got some amazing parts to visit. So if anything, if they're going to take anything out of my photo, it's just take a moment to take in the beauty and appreciate what we've got. And if they can replicate that on their camera, which if I'm doing my job right, they should be able to, then, they can also walk away with those memories and show their family and kids and grandkids and stuff like that. So, but overall, yeah, it's not an ego thing for me. I like to it's just my process is just enjoying Mother Nature, and if people enjoy my work, then that's awesome.
Awesome. Yeah. I guess looking at your work and how people are reacting to it, do you think that they are taking away the message that you're trying to get? You've got very rich pickings down there in Tasmania.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of people that go there simply because they see images like your own and some of the other guys down there, Paul Holan and the like. Simply because they see those, they go, wow, I want to go and see this place. Do you think there's a lot of that coming through in your work?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, definitely. Like Tassie is an absolute mecca for landscape photography. If you're a landscape photographer listening to this and you're not in Australia, or you are in Australia and you've never been to Tasmania, you need to get to Tasmania either in autumn, winter or spring. Every corner's got something. It's a stunning place. And I don't think I'd be in the position I would be without having lived in Tasmania. I don't think I could have had the success I had or have that without having sort of Tassie on my doorstep. So, and it's nothing better. There's no better buzz than when we do take people on these trips around Tassie, when they do stand at that spot and they go, oh, this is where you took that photo from. Yeah, cool. And it's a bit like, that's like me, like, this is where Peter Dombrovskis took that photo from. That's incredible. So I think being able to take people to stand in the same places that you love and that you've loved of other people is quite special. And I think people do see that. They look at that and go, right, I get this place now. I get photography, I get the landscape, I get the weather, I get Tassie, I get why people come down here. And there's no better feeling, really. Like, I get all giddy inside when people just sit there and just do, oh, wow. That's like, I've seen Cradle Mountain 1,000 times, or I've seen the Tarkine 1,000 times. But when someone sees it for the first time and they go, oh my God, this is incredible. Like, you get really proud of where you live and you get giddy inside. And from that's where we really we can force home that message that, you know what, this is lovely. Tassie's amazing, but your own backyard's probably got something really cool as well. Yeah. You need to go explore your backyard. Everywhere in Australia, there's something amazing to photograph. But yeah, it's really good when people come to Tassie and through my work and our tours and things like that they can feel that sense of amazing, even pride, just having this in their backyard is great.
Yeah. I totally get that. It is a real buzz, sort of seeing it through fresh eyes when somebody's comes on a workshop or something and they're seeing these places for the first time, and you're able to sort of say, okay, well, here it is. This is what it's like here,
And that's right. And if you walk that backwards to why they're there and the fact that they're there for you, or the reason they're there is because you helped them get there, it's a bit of a bond that you get. Like I've got so many customers that become, they're good friends in a way because you've had that experience together. And I remember that time when, we had the wild waves of the Tarkine crashing over and we all got almost swept off our feet, but we got some incredible photos. That memory lives with them forever.
Yeah.
And that's almost in a way, it's like a virtual photograph there because you're giving them that memory, and they're taking the photograph to keep that memory. So it's a bit of a unique situation, which is, it's lovely. It's really good.
Yeah. Yeah. We talked about the rich pickings in Tasmania. Where in Tasmania, or it doesn't even have to be Tasmania, where is your favourite spot? What's the place that just sucks you in?
Oh, look, I think Tassie. I think Cradle Mountain sucks me in. I've already mentioned it a few times on the show already, but Cradle Mountain's a very special, unique place. I was lucky enough to be in Yosemite National Park just a few weeks ago, and I took a friend of mine, and she'd never been there before. And she goes, this place is amazing. And I said, yeah, this place is amazing. I said, but you know what? We've got a similar thing in Australia. And to me, Cradle Mountain National Park, and I mean the whole national park, not just that classic shot from the lake, but that whole national park is Australia's Yosemite to me. Like it's got ancient forests, which are incredible to shoot. It's got glacial lakes, which are incredible. It's got glacial mountains, which are incredible. It's got all seasons of the year, mainly in a day or two. You can get them all in one go. And if you're able to, and you're willing to, and you want to just go for a walk over the back of the mountains, it gets even better. Yeah. So a lot of people who only make it to Cradle Mountain, that classic shot, I always say to them, if you just walk over the back of Cradle Mountain, it gets 10 times better. The mountains open up. It's just endless awesomeness. So for me, Cradle Mountain's the place I can go. Even if I don't take a photo, I still enjoy it. It's a very special place. And it's busy now. That's probably the one thing about the national parks that do get a reputation for being amazing is they do get busy. But I think, again, with a bit of a photography lesson, if you're not lazy and get up early and get up there for sunrise or stay out a bit late for sunset, you'll have the place to yourself still because everyone's still getting their free buffet breakfast or they're going back for their dinner at the hotel and you can have the place to yourself. So, But yeah, Cradle Mountain for me. And then, Yosemite is amazing. I could easily spend months and months and months photographing that place as well, but it's a bit further away than Tassie.
Yeah, a bit harder to get to.
A bit harder to get to, it is indeed, for sure.
What changes have you seen, particularly at Cradle Mountain? I know, blimey, it must have been about 15 years ago, maybe even more. Actually, probably more like 20 years ago, the last time I was there. And I know you basically used to be able to park pretty much on the shore of the lake and it's the car park and everything. It was all organised. What changes have you seen in your time since you started going there to what it's like now?
Yeah, well, I first went there when I was about 18 or 19, the first time I came to Tassie, so that's 20 odd years ago. So there's been a few changes. Obviously, that big car park that's been removed, that was quite controversial down here, and they've now put like a big viewing building in there. But you can still, there's a little bit of lost communication, I think, between Tasmania Parks and Wildlife and the public. You can actually still drive down and park down at the very end. Yeah. You just can't do it during the bus times when the buses are running like 8 till 5 or whatever it is. But I'm all for a bit of progression with the national parks here. I know there was a lot of locals who were like, no, you're ripping the park apart. It's an eyesore. It's this, it's that. But I think one thing that maybe Tasmanians forget is it's a national park. It's not a Tasmanians only park.
Yep.
We've got a lot of people wanting to come down and experience the beauty that we've had the luck of being able to walk in whenever we want. So the facilities are much better now. The viewing platform is much better. It's going to save lives because before that, if you came down off the mountain and you were hypothermic, you had a car park to sit in. Now you've got a building that's going to give you some shelter. I think the buses going in and out of Cradle Mountain, again, are restricting traffic, and that road used to be a nightmare. Now it's all well managed. So I'm all for improving the national parks down here. And if that means putting in some infrastructure that's, a bit more user-friendly and a bit more up-to-date, then because, we want people going to these national parks. We want people going, not for photographs, just in general, just taking your kids down there and just get them outside, get them off the
enjoying being outside.
Yeah. So the easier we make that for anyone, that's a win for me.
Sure. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about the business of photography. When did you decide to make it a business, and what was the process of you making that decision?
So I guess I sort of went through a couple of stages of business. As I mentioned before, I used to do lots of weddings and stuff. I used to live in Melbourne. So I grew up in Melbourne and lived there for quite a while. So I used to do lots of weddings and commercial real estate photography. I did all the ones that photographers don't want to do. But we did them all. And so my business originally...
Where you got to get money from, that's the thing.
Well, that's it. It paid for new equipment and it paid a few bills and things like that. So, so my business originally started out doing weddings and portraits and all that kind of stuff. And, it was good. But then I always wanted to get into sort of selling landscape imagery. And, I wanted to be the Ken Duncan or the whoever, the Peter Eastway, as we all do. We want to aspire to something. But then there was a little moment where speaking of Tasmania and Cradle Mountain, I went and did the overland track for the first time.
Yep.
And I came back and I had a whole heap of photos for it. And we did an old classic slide night. It was great. Okay. We had the slide projector out and did the whole thing. And the people that came on the trip all came around to my house and we had a bit of a slide night. But everyone was asked, like, how the hell did you get that photo? Like, my photos don't look like that. Why does yours look like this? And that's when it sort of clicked to me. I'm like, maybe I could sort of run educational trips along the overland track as a bit of a step aside from this weddings and portrait stuff. And so I went down that avenue and started looking at that. And that's sort of how it grew into running the tours I do now. I started doing that, got away from the weddings, started actually teaching people landscape photography and nature and getting out there. I learned pretty quickly that doing 65K hikes every few weeks, not great for the body. And most people don't want to. And most people don't want to do that as a holiday. Yeah. So I had the diehards who wanted to do that, but then I had some customers say, well, why don't you run these just at the hotels at Cradle Mountain, or why don't you do it down at Freycinet or somewhere? So the idea, everything just grew from there. And then I went to Tasmania Parks and Wildlife, gave me a permit for all parks in Tassie to run business. So that opened up the door even more, so I could run tours wherever I wanted to. And it just grew from there. I was still working at the time. I used to work in government. I was working full-time and then went part-time working for child support agency. So collecting money from separated parents, which was a bit of an ugly job. So the photography was definitely an outlet for that as well, to get away from that. And then being the business savvy man I am, I decided to throw my job in all together 2 weeks before COVID hit. That was a great idea. So I've been doing it part-time for 3 or 4 years, and I went, you know what, I'm going to try and do this full-time. I think I can do it. Threw the towel in, COVID hit, had a year of just living off the grants for tourism operators and living off the savings and stuff I had like that. But then since COVID loosened up, that's another thing that Tassie was great for, is originally we couldn't travel overseas, but people thought Tassie was still overseas. They thought that was pretty exotic. So people were coming down here in droves. So pretty much since the end of COVID, I've been booked out flat out. And it's just grown from there. Like, people have all ticked off all the Tassie workshops now. They're like, let's go somewhere else. And my business has just really grown on the back of customer demand of where they want to go and what they want to see. So it's been amazing.
Yeah. What was the process of getting the permits with Tasmania Parks? Was that laborious? Was it easy? What was that like?
It was much easier than what it was now, that's for sure. So I got my license to do that. That was probably pushing about 7 or 8 years ago.
Yeah, right.
And at the time, that was still pretty full on. We had to put together a big business plan. Mm-hmm. So the business plan had to have all your risk assessments, fire assessments, accessibility assessments, all the things that you do in business,
insurance, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. Public liability, all that kind of stuff. That was fairly straightforward when we did that. Now, though, seems to be a lot more complex, and it seems to be taking a hell of a lot longer. Like, we're talking up to almost a year to get your permits approved. So I reckon I was pretty lucky to get it when I did. And now they've actually just recently extended, instead of renewing it every year, it's every 3 or 4 years now. So it's even once you've got it, it's easy to keep it. But that was a bit of a shock. Like, I'd never done a business plan before, and Public insurance? What the hell's that? What's that about? What do I need that for? So there was a learning process there, which again, as a small business operator, it's, there's an amazing amount of education available online for business owners and starting your business and things like that. So people are listening who want to start their business, not necessarily in photography, but any small business, really utilize the online government things and other small business seminars and things you can attend and stuff like that, because they really do help. And then once you got the business going, it's quite okay and easy to keep it going. Obviously you got to have a good product and do a good job. But yeah, the permit was one of the big hurdles. But I was lucky in a way. Like, I originally just applied for Cradle Mountain, and they said that's fine. And then a couple of years later, I said, look, I'm actually looking to expand that. And I don't know if I just got the person on a good day or something like that. And he just said, you know what, just put all the parks down. We'll just give you a blanket permit for all of them.
Right.
And that way it just saves you applying each time. Yeah, like, sweet, I'll take that. Thank you very much. And it's been great ever since. So yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. I guess one of the other things that people struggle with when starting a photography business in particular is how to price their work and how to price workshops and so forth. And obviously in the beginning, you can't necessarily ask what you can after you've been in the game for a few years.
Yeah.
How did that process work for you, and how do you go about actually thinking about your pricing and so forth?
Yeah, it's a tricky one, especially when you are starting out. Like, if I'd had $1 for every time someone had asked me how much should I sell my print for, you probably wouldn't need to be in business, because it is hard and it's a tricky one. So like with the workshops and tours, you do your market research and have a look around and see what everyone else is doing. You can be cheeky and go in a bit cheaper than some people if you go into a similar location. I think the main thing for me was, with my business, having worked in that government agency I worked in, it was full on. It was a high stress job, and not something that most people would want to do. But anything that I could earn from a trip or a tour on top of what the cost was, like, I was wrapped with that. Like, I was really just quite chuffed if I walked away with a few $100 and I got to go away for 5 days and hang out at Cradle Mountain taking photos. To me, that was like the best job in the world. So when I originally started out, like, I wasn't looking to maximize my profits. I was looking just to cover my costs and have a good time and have a better work life. And my good mate Brendan, who we run the other podcast with, he runs the camera shop in Ocean Grove. I spoke to him. I got some ideas off him. I said, mate, this is what I'm thinking of doing. What advice could you give me? He goes, mate, I'm my own boss. I get to play golf once a week. I get to write my own hours, and as long as you cover your mortgage, your kids' school fees, and put food on the plate, anything on top of that's a bonus. And I really took that advice on, and then so once the tours start growing a bit more, then like we're doing overseas ones now, so there's a lot more involved with pricing and stuff like that. And but still, like, I've just got back from Scotland and America over the last 2 months, and like we've made money, which is great. It's obviously put food on the plate, paid the mortgage. Maybe bought a couple of new lenses and stuff along the way, whatever I needed. But like, to me, the payment of my tours is the fact that I get to do this as a job. Anything on top of that's a bonus. If I can make some money out of that, then awesome. Some tours, like I know, for example, Scotland, we did back-to-back tours in Scotland. The first tour versus the second tour, they're only 2.5 weeks apart. The accommodation was $7,500 more for the first tour than it was for the second tour. So same place, slightly different times of year, peak period, not peak period. So the first tour we made some money, not as much as we normally would. The second tour we made what we would expect to make, but it all balances out. But like, I got to hang out in Scotland for a month, like, pretty cool with a camera. So yeah, like, I'm probably not the best to give business advice on how to make as much money as you can, but I think if you can get in a role or in a job where you got a camera in your hand and you're enjoying it, then the money on top is just a bonus. You're not sitting in a 9-to-5 job. You're not getting abused on the phone like I used to do all the time from customers and stuff like that. You're out in the fresh air. You're keeping fairly fit. You're meeting people that are like-minded and have the same passion you do. They're there to learn off you. You can feel good about the information you can give to them. And so yeah, to me, it's pricing is a hard one, but mainly covering my cost is the main thing. And then trying to make a fixed figure every day is great. Most times I do it. Occasionally I'll make a mistake and not make as much money as I thought I would. But, you'll come out with a heap of memories and some pretty cool cool stories and photos to go with it. So
nice. What do you take away from setting up and running your own business as the greatest lesson that you've learned out of that?
Yeah, I think mainly just people talk about taking that leap. And sort of, I put this off for many years. I could have done it probably 4 or 5 years earlier than I did. And I'm like, no, I've got a good government job. It's a secure job. I got super. I got this. I got that.
Sure,
I'm miserable. I'm miserable as hell. But you know what? it's okay.
Yeah, I hate
so.
work.
I hate work, and I pretty much want to not go anywhere between 9 and 5, apart from go under the covers and not go to work. But so my biggest takeaway from it would be that if you've got a passion about it and you're good at it, most things that you're good at, you can turn into a business, I think. So, like running photography tours is a pretty niche market to do, and there's quite a few of people going around. But I think most people that have been successful in that, if you talk to them, which I'm sure you probably have, they're passionate about photography. They're not necessarily passionate about making money. Yeah. They're passionate about their photography, and what comes with that is generally a successful business sort of plan and stuff like that. But you've got to take that leap. I think probably one of the biggest mistakes people make that I've seen is they try to take the leap, a too big a leap. Yeah. They, like you mentioned previously, like they start out a photography tour, but they're going to charge A+ prices. Yep. They've never done a tour before. Their first tour is the highest one you can buy, and they maybe look at trying to maximize profits off the back, straight off the bat. So I think maybe take time in growing your business. Everyone's got to start somewhere, and everyone starts down the bottom. But if you go out and try and overcharge things, you're probably going to shoot yourself in the foot quicker. But taking that leap and starting small and just trusting your abilities as well, I think they're the things I would take away from it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people that are amateur, and I mean that in the real term, that they're just not getting paid to do their photography.
Yeah.
Have this fear in some circles where, I'm going to do this as a job, and I'm worried that the creative side and the reason why I'm passionate and the fact that it's an escape goes away because it becomes a job.
Yeah.
How have you found that process for you? It sounds like it hasn't really changed your thinking with photography, or has it?
Oh, a little bit. I have a lady that helps me, Cheryl Davis. She's an amazing macro photographer. I've got to give her a plug because she hates me giving her plugs, from WA. So she helps me now. I used to have my cousin used to come on trips and drive the second car and things like that. But she's now come on as an assistant for me. And I was talking to her the other day about it, and like there is times where you do struggle. Like I sometimes get back into the hotel room and I'm like, you're exhausted.
Yeah.
And you sort of think, I really haven't taken photos I wanted to take today. Mm-hmm. That's probably one of my biggest things that I've done in my business is these trips that we're taking people on. They're not for me to get awesome photographs on. Like you hear horror stories of people saying, I went on a trip with so and so, and they set up my tripod and I didn't see them for the next hour because they were out doing their own thing. It's like, how do you live with yourself doing that? So every now and then you'll get back to the hotel room and like, geez, we had an amazing day today, but I didn't get any photos of it because I just wanted to make sure the customers got theirs. So sometimes you get a bit down on that, where you think, you're like, where's my time to go do my photography? You come back from a tour and you're pretty knackered, and you take a bit of time off. So it's a tricky balance to go on these tours and still have some of your own photography time and keep that passion for your own thing. So I'm learning now that when I'm on a trip, generally by about day 3 or 4 of a multi-day trip, people are pretty settled into the process of how it's going. And you can sort of just sneak off for 10 minutes over here and get a shot that you want, or, take someone with you and say, you know what, I think this is a bit boring. Let's go for a walk over here and have a look at it. So you can sort of incorporate your enjoyment back into them, where I think when I first started off, I think it was all about the customers, get them right, get their shots right. And I'd get home and like, geez, I missed an absolute cracking shot there because I was helping them. I mean, you don't resent that, but you sort of,
they're paying you to be there. So
that's right. That's what they're paying. That's why I can be happy with what I do. So what I've also decided to start doing is some of these trips we do is actually get there a few days earlier and have a look around, sort of double scout things, but use that time to get some photos that I want to get as well. But yeah, it is tricky. Like you do sometimes have to think about, okay, where's my photography time coming from? How do I incorporate it in the business? Am I doing too much business photography and not enough personal photography and things like that? But
I guess this is where being your own boss is the advantage, because like Brendan was saying, he has a day where he plays golf. Well, a day or a morning or an afternoon or whatever that you just want to go and do your photography, you can schedule that in.
That's right, and that is one of the beauties of being your own boss, and the flexibility with that is that you can, I've got a mate down here, Jamie, who he's a builder and great photographer, but he's working 9 to 5, and if there's a big snow day going on down here in Tassie, I'm out, I'm off, see you later, I'm off in the car, and he'll be like, "You bastard, how'd you get that photograph?" He goes, "I was hanging off a roof, nailing down something. You're out there and up in the mountains taking photos of snow." So you do get that, and you do need to maximize that just to keep your own sanity. I think it is easy, or it could be easy, to really lose your enjoyment of photography if you just did this all the time and didn't sort of take your own time to do your own photography. So definitely mindful of that. And that's where Cheryl's amazing as well. She's like, when you get home, don't get on your computer, don't do this, don't do emails, go out to Mount Field and take some waterfall shots, or go and do this, or go and do that. So it's good to have some encouragement from your co-worker. Excuse me.
Yeah. Talking about the enjoyment and doing your own thing, is there a situation where you've been in where things didn't go quite as planned, but you still got something unforgettable, whether it's an image or whether it's just the...
Yeah, look, we've had some interesting trips. I got helicoptered out of a waterfall once down here in Tassie. I did my knee. That was a funny one because, well, not funny, haha, but funny, not haha. It was going okay until I slipped over and hurt my knee. But the waterfall that we were walking to, I ended up only getting like 15 minutes to photograph it before the helicopter came in to pick me up. So that was really disappointing, where everything went wrong. And I knew there was a photograph there, like it's a magical place. And I knew I'd missed out on that photograph because I'd hurt my knee. And I've always said I'll get back in there one day, and I've never got back in there. And so it's still on a list of things to do. But yeah, things can go wrong. But the beauty of that scenario was that the rescue guys that we met, the rescue police people, we've become really good friends. We've been friends for like a decade now, where, if they see me going out hiking, I'll get a cheeky message from them saying, "Look, we're not on call today, try not to hurt yourself," or, "Don't do this or don't do that." So what was a pretty shitty scenario ended up being, some good friendships and good stories to tell. So, you take the good with the bad, that's for sure.
Yeah, nice. How long did the knee take to recover?
I had a small tear in one of the muscles there. I think it took about 6 weeks or something to come back to being okay. So it wasn't a major one, but it was just, I wasn't getting out of there. It was a 16 or 17 kilometer hike back out.
Yeah, walking out of that.
I wasn't walking out of that. And although the mate I was with, Adrian, he's like, "Mate, you can't get a helicopter in here. How stupid are we going to?" All he was worried was how it was going to look. And I'm like, but I can't walk out of here, mate. Like, what am I going to do? And it's a funny story. Like the helicopter winch failed halfway up, dragging us out of the forest. All these things that could have gone wrong went wrong with this rescue. And I think that's what made the experience even funnier at the end, that even now we can still laugh about. Adrian, one of the rescue guys, actually flew back from this waterfall to Cradle Mountain, hanging off the winch off the bottom of the helicopter, like Hollywood style, all the way back. It was and mind you, I had the green whistle, the pain release whistle. I was happy as a pig in poo. I was really happy. I didn't know what was going on. And then Adrian told me, he goes, "I went all the way back hanging off that winch, and you're in the helicopter stoned off your head. What's going on?" So yeah, funny stories, but yeah, disappointing not to get the shot I wanted. But yeah, got out of there.
Have to take a hike and get in there again.
Yeah, I will. I know Adrian won't come with me. He actually put that in his wedding vows that his wife said, "No, you can no longer go hiking with Cameron anywhere in Tasmania." So, but yeah, maybe one day we'll get back in there, or maybe I'll take one of my kids or something with me when they get a bit up to that. So
that's hilarious. What has photography taught you about the world?
What's it taught me about the world? Probably that, like, the world's, it's stunning. It's a beautiful place. I think what it's taught me is maybe people just need to open their eyes a bit more. And there's so much, climate change and all these things that are happening. And, you've got all these climate change deniers. You've got all these people that say, "No, nothing's changing. No, this is okay." I don't think people just need to open their eyes a bit more and see what we've potentially got to lose. And that's where photography really, I find, is something I try and strive to get out in my photos. If I was trying to give a message out, and for people to look at something in my photos, is to say, wow, that's really beautiful. That's a beautiful place. Where is that?
Yeah.
And you can say, well, that's the Tarkine in Tasmania. And just behind that photograph, they're knocking down all these trees to make room for toilet paper. You know what I mean? Like, it just makes no sense. So, like, I'm not a greenie at heart at all. Like, I just love nature. And I think if that message can get out through photographs that we live in a beautiful place and let's spread that word, I think the more people that they can see places that are of beauty, maybe they'll think twice about knocking it down or flooding it or burning it or polluting it or whatever it might be. So, there's definitely a place in the world for what we need. Like, we need industry, we need power, we need wood, we need all those. We need toilet paper, and we need all those things. But maybe we can just be a bit smarter about it, as opposed to the
way we go about it is important.
Yeah, that's right. And unfortunately, doesn't matter what side you vote for in Canberra, it's full of idiots. They're only in it for themselves. And I think as photographers, especially landscape photographers, you've only got to look at Peter Dombrowski's Rock Island Bend shot, of the Franklin River. Like, that changed an environmental direction.
Yeah.
All it's going to take, hopefully, for some of these things going on around the world is some lucky photographer or some skillful photographer to get a cracking shot of something with that. Some politician just goes, hang on a sec, that shouldn't be destroyed.
Yeah.
And I think we'd be all lying if it wasn't in our own little back of our brains thinking, I hope I get that shot. I hope I can be that person that can get the shot that changes, a direction of policy or people's mindsets. So, but yeah, that's it. The world's beautiful, but yeah, we're slowly making a mess of it. That's for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Speaking about the world and society in general and how people perceive photography, where do you see photography's place in society, and in particular landscape photography's place?
Yeah. I think in the most recent years, I think photography's been an amazing vehicle for mental health. I think there's so many issues out there with mental health that people are suffering. You see it more and more, especially with landscape photography, people getting out there with a camera and really just spending time in nature, clearing their minds. Every landscape photographer knows if you go out for a bit of a shoot or go out for a multi-day hike, you come back feeling better. It could have bucketed down rain on you the whole time, blizzarded, 45-degree heat, doesn't matter what it is, you'll come back feeling better about it. So I think photography in society can be a really good tool for especially young people. Like, I've got two kids. I've got almost a 13-year-old and a 10-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd love to see them grab a camera, not to try and make money or anything like that, but just to get them out there and just see the magic of what happens when you take a photograph, take that memory back, take that location back. And I think, I'd love to see more photography programs in schools. When I went to school, every school had a photography class.
That was where I fell in love with it.
Yeah, exactly. But you don't see it too often these days. So I think that'd be a great stepping stone for society to have more people taking photos. I think the world would be a better place if people were spending more time just taking photographs and capturing nature and, really just getting out there and clearing their minds. And I think people would be healthier for it, both physically and mentally.
Yeah, definitely. Speaking about mental struggles with photography, have you ever struggled to find inspiration? And if so, how did you deal with it?
Yeah, I think we all go through our ebbs and flows. I think different. I think sometimes social media can probably do me a bit, especially when you're scrolling through like Instagram and stuff like that, and you see all these amazing photographs, and you've done nothing for the last 2 months of any worth, and you think, oh God, look at that guy's shot, look at her shot, that's amazing.
My stuff's all trash.
Yeah, my stuff's all trash. I haven't done that, or I haven't. That bastard gets to go there all the time. I don't get to go there. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm sure people look at my work and go the same thing. Look at him, he's doing
absolutely.
this. Yeah. So you do lose. Sometimes you get down a bit, and or I think I've always been a big believer of not trying to make it happen. Just let it happen. Countless times I've been out with my camera and not taking any photos because nothing's really happened. But not getting down on that as much. But yeah, there's definitely times where you sort of not you're in a bit of a rut. That's where I like to try, and if I am in a bit of a rut, I'll try and maybe change the way I shoot. Maybe I'll just go out with a 200mm lens only. So I've just my brain's got to think differently. Or, I did a trip in the Tarkine last year where I was in a bit of a funk, and I thought, oh, what am I going to do? And Brendan's like, oh, just enjoy yourself. You'll be fine. I said, I'm just going to shoot black and white the entire time. I'm not going to shoot any color. I'm going to shoot black and white. And of course, we get to Cradle Mountain as part of this trip, and we have one of the biggest auroras on the calendar pop up at Cradle Mountain. And I remember the moment we're all there freezing our bum off along Dove Lake, and you could see all the beams behind Cradle Mountain. And Brendan looks over to me, he goes, so you're going to still shoot black and white? And I'm like, yep, I'm going to shoot black and white. So I did it in black and white, and it was quite unique, and actually got Tourism Tassie featured it on one of their Instagram accounts. Nice. Because they have a winter program here called the Off Season, and it's all themed in black and white. So that just happened to suit with that. But yeah, that was one of those moments where it's just like, I'm in a funk. I'll try and do something different, and then Mother Nature said, "Well, just be careful, Cam. Don't go too funky, because I'm gonna throw up a massive aurora right in front of you over Cradle Mountain." So yeah, but it's those kind of moments as well. Like I'm a bit of a dreamer. I don't know, but like I always believe the universe does things for a reason. So to me, it's like you're shooting black and white. There's one of the biggest auroras of the last 5 years. Is that a sign for me that the universe is just saying, just keep doing what you're doing. You'll get the moments, you'll get the opportunities. Don't get too down on it all. Yeah.
Right.
So,
what's the future of photography, and what do you see as its challenges? What do you see as things that are good on the horizon?
Yeah, I think I don't know. It's a bit of a fuzzy one. The future of photography. I feel like we've sort of hit maybe a bit of a plateau. Like we've seemed to megapixels aren't getting much more. Image stabilizers are at a bit of a ceiling. Lenses are pretty much the same as what they've always been.
I think most of the advances recently have just been around autofocus. That seems to be the biggest thing, because I mean some of the big camera brands are sort of bringing down the number of megapixels.
Yeah,
and they, I hate to say it, but they're focusing on those things that are technically difficult, but it is interesting, I think, the way that sort of has plateaued. I think you're right.
Yeah, and I think, and a good question for you as well, is AI is coming in like a wrecking ball. I don't know. As a landscape photographer, I'm trying to stay away from AI as a photographer. Are you fearful of AI in landscape photography?
As a landscape photographer, not really, no, because for people that enjoy getting outdoors and people that want to be in an environment and experience something, they're always going to do that. So people are always going to be doing that, because you cannot compare standing Dove Lake with an aurora going off above Cradle Mountain with sitting there typing a few words saying, show me Dove Lake with Cradle Mountain behind it and an aurora behind that. Compare the experience. I don't think that's like for like.
And I
think get an image that looks the same.
But it's not the experience. And I think that's a brilliant way of putting it. Like the experience is, you can't replicate that. You can't AI that. Like I think AI is good to a point for dust removal and little things like that, and object removal.
I've recently ditched Photoshop. And the reason I did that was because they doubled the subscription price, or not quite doubled the subscription price. And I'm sitting there looking at seriously, because most of what they're putting in terms of new features are AI related. I've actually switched to the free version of Affinity, and I'm not paid by Canva or anyone that it has any affiliation with it. I went through and had a look at all of the options that are out there, Capture One, et cetera, and the one that I found that, I guess it's a learning curve, but it's the most familiar to me. In terms of a lot of the tools are adjustment layers and whatever are named the same, a levels adjustment and a curves adjustment, et cetera. They're all named the same as that. I can even import some of my Photoshop plugins.
All right.
Which is brilliant. Perfect. Then I don't lose some of the functionality that I use some of my editing. And I look at it and I go, well, there's no AI at all. Yes, you can put interestingly with Affinity, the paid version only brings in things like AI deletion and all the rest of that. So I've kind of gone backwards a little bit in terms of that functionality, in terms of dust removal and all the rest of that. And I've got to go and look for it. same way as I used to do 3 or 4 years ago. And
Yeah.
I've got to then clone them out using a clone brush, not just circling that and hitting a button and it disappears them all, and to be honest, I still get the same result. I still get as good results, and I'm definitely much happier in the wallet because it's
you got more money in your pocket.
Well, that's right.
Sure, yeah.
Now, it's not going to cost me $25 a month to do my editing, which is what it was going to cost. It was costing me $15 I think a month. Up until renewal was going to happen, I think, in about 10 days. And I'm, as I say, I'm sitting here with more money in my pocket and I'm getting the same results and don't have any AI involved in my production. So I'm actually happy as a pig in poo.
Well, that's the thing. I think like it's a contentious topic. Everyone's different with their AI. Like I was in Kakadu just a couple of days ago, and I went out. I have a bit of a passion for storm chasing. I'm not very good at it, but I like the idea of going out there and seeing Mother Nature really get angry and throw some bolts down and things like that.
Sure.
And I was out there and I was just taking these photos and nothing was really happening. I'm like, everything was right. Everything was perfect. We had this tree lit up with these beautiful clouds, had the stars behind the clouds. But this goddamn bloody thing wouldn't throw any bolts out. I'm like, this is annoying me. So I got home and I just thought, you know what? Let's just see. I just went chat GPT. I said, put some lightning bolts in this photograph. And it came out straight away. I just went, oh, get out. That looks amazing. Like that's what I wanted. That's what I wanted, but that's not the experience I had.
Yes.
So I actually put it out on my social media. I'm like, what do you think? AI, no AI? And geez, straight away you get the non-AIs and the AIs. Bang, bang, bang.
There's pro and con people out there. And they'll all give their 2 cents.
Yeah. And it's funny you mentioned the experience because there was one guy who lives up in Broome, another photographer. I don't really know him. He's just someone online, but he wrote saying, I would actually prefer the experience to be happening there and then, not created later on. So he went down the same avenue as what you said. So like the future, I think like there's, I don't know, cameras are funny with technology. What I do worry about the future a little bit with landscape photography is just how far people are going to get shots these days. Like you see lots of people doing and drones and things like that, just going around the rules a bit and over the fences and all that kind of stuff to try and get that next sort of winning shot. I would like to see landscape photographers as a genre check their egos a little bit more, maybe just bring it down a little bit. It's not a competition about who can win, how many awards and all that kind of stuff. Like I rarely ever enter awards again, because I don't care what people think of my photographs. I just love my work for what I enjoy and the experiences. But yeah, you're starting to see a lot more people sort of just flouting the laws a little bit and putting things up where they shouldn't be and going places. So I'd like to see that back off a little bit and people just go back to enjoying nature as opposed to trying to get a photo to get your name on a plaque somewhere.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
What's your favourite thing about being a photographer?
I think one of my best mates, Mark, wouldn't know the front end or back end of a camera ever. He said to me one day, he goes, geez, you must have a lot of fun every day or something along those lines. I said, what do you mean? He goes, you just see everything so beautiful. To walk around and just see photographs of beauty everywhere. He goes, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, like that to me is a pretty cool thing that, you get, everywhere we look as a photograph and generally we're looking for that lovely sort of light and things like that. So we certainly see the world differently as photographers. And I think that's a good thing. I think it's probably good for our mental health that we sort of spark our brain up a bit more every day because we're looking for that beauty and that light and something that looks pretty potentially on a photo. So, but yeah, he summed it up pretty well as to how I would see the world. And
nice.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. And that was probably one of the better compliments I've ever had, actually. And he didn't even know it was a compliment. He was just, because he doesn't know photography. He was just saying it as a mate. So yeah.
Nice. What about your least favourite thing?
Least favourite thing about photography, the expenses are getting a bit annoying. Buying lenses and like I said,
paying for photos.
Paying for all that kind of stuff. All that kind of stuff adds up. So that's probably the most enjoyable thing about photography at the moment. Yeah, probably just like I got back from Scotland and Cheryl's dad, she's from England, they live over there and her dad wanted to buy a Canon R6 Mark III
Yep.
And it was 2,500 Australian dollars more expensive in the UK than it is here. And he was looking to buy it. I'm like, why don't you just buy one in Australia? You live here, and then if he's got a problem, just send it back and we'll fix it for him. Save him $2,500. I'm like, but how are people affording that kind of money on equipment? So I think cost of equipment, I think some of the camera brands are taking the mickey as well. Like they're just like, well, you got to buy it, so we'll just chuck another 20% on top of it. And it's just, so it'd be nice to see a camera brand not go too far with their pricing and bring things down. But it is an expensive hobby. A lot of customers, they rock up on tours and they got more gear than I have.
Yeah.
And it's like, how much money did you spend on all this? Oh, it's $25,000 worth of gear.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow. I'm like, and what mode do you use? Oh, I'm just in program mode or auto mode or
auto mode. Like shifted off A.
Never shifted off A. Like I used to work at Camera House in Melbourne, and there's been a big shift in people buying cameras. People used to come in 20 years ago and say, look, I'm going overseas to Europe for 6 months. I want a nice camera, I want a couple of lenses. What do I need? And we'd recommend and say, look, this would be great. This will give you the reach, give you a wide angle. It does 5 frames a second, whatever it does. Blah, blah.
Here's an entry-level body that'll do.
That's right. Here's the thing. Here's a filter. Here's some film. Away you go. Now people walk in and say, I want that top shelf camera.
Yeah.
And it's like, why? Because that's the best. That'll make me the best photographer. Well, it won't. It's probably going to make you a worse photographer because you don't know how to use the thing. And then you're going to get frustrated with it and just put it away and have that money dwindle away in the cupboard. Yeah, so people have got a lot of money to spend on photography, but they don't need to do that. People need to start a bit smaller, and I'd be stupid not to say that the money you save on not buying the top level photography gear, put it into tours and experiences like with people like myself. Let us take you around and show you some cool places, and I think I don't talk a lot about gear on the show, but I think in terms of that, buy some good glass. That's it.
Body itself doesn't matter as long as it gives you a clear image. Sensors these days are sensors. You can go stack sensor or whatever if you go on top shelf. But to be honest, I don't think it matters. I did see an interesting hot take actually in an article, I think it was yesterday or the day before, and they were actually saying, they were sort of laying out what they thought were the best cameras out there, and interestingly, they tagged the R5 Mark II as their sort of number one. Obviously, great pro camera, and the R6 Mark II.
Right.
Loves the Mark III. Basically, said in the article, you don't need what's coming in the R3.
Yeah. That's another thing. Like I said, we're not talking too much about gear, but like Olympus or OM System, that's one of the brands I use. They brought out their OM1 and then they brought out a Mark II. It was practically a firmware update.
Yeah.
But it was $1,500 more though.
Yeah.
And it's just like, really? Like for an extra stop of neutral density that's built in and slightly faster processor. No. So yeah, like that's to me what I don't like about photography at the moment. I think things are getting too expensive, and like going back to what I said about, it'd be great to get some things into schools and have kids learn. The last thing I want is my daughter coming home and saying, Dad, can you buy me that $4,500 Canon because I need it for school? No, you don't. No, here's a Pentax K1000. You can start from the bottom, and you can enjoy it with some film and learn the proper way. And then when you get your own job, you can buy a Canon. So, yeah.
What's the best and/or worst piece of advice anyone's given you?
Right. Probably the best bit of advice I got, not directly, but through attending a seminar for Peter Eastway. And I use this on my trips and tell people a lot, is, and I don't know if he said it in any specific way, but make sure that you're exposed to the light that catches your eye. So if your eye is drawn to something in a scene, whether or not it's a bit of light hitting the top of some trees or some, clouds lighting up, but just use your exposure to capture that bit of the frame. And the rest of it will just sort of fall into place. So I've really used that a lot in the last 10, 15 years, is that if I see some nice light, that's what I'm exposing for. I want to make sure that if my eye was good enough to go there and see that and catch my eye, then people looking at the photograph are going to do the same thing. So that was probably the best advice I got with that. One of the worst advices I've got was someone tried to tell me that mirrorless cameras won't go anywhere and I should stick with the DSLR. So I didn't listen to them, but yeah, but no, yeah, again, there's some great information out there from photographers, landscape photographers around Australia about, just how to shoot and what to look for. And
Sure.
that bit of advice from Peter Eastway was great. Like it sort of changed the entire way I looked at photographs, more scenes really. I'd drive around and go, oh, that looks good. And I'd just take that giant, big wide angle shot of everything.
Yep.
But then I found out, I can put a 300 mil on and grab that beautiful bit of mist and light on top of that forest. That's the shot,
Yeah.
and that's what my eye automatically went to. So that's my big advice, and that I've taken away from photography. And that's what I pass on to a lot of guests as well.
Beautiful. What do you like to do when you're not doing photography?
Well, Brendan and I, when we do our podcast, we always say it's not a football, golf, or cricket show. So I like to play golf. I don't mind a bit of golf.
Yep.
So that's pretty cool. I don't mind sort of strumming around on a bit of a guitar, trying to pretend I can play some songs. But yeah, mainly, family time, hanging out with family. We've just got a new little baby golden retriever puppy.
Nice.
So that's keeping us occupied upstairs in the last few days here. And so yeah, just downtime. I still, I don't mind still going out with a camera. I usually take a little point and shoot with me on my golf course, because golf courses look amazing. You get beautiful late afternoon, a beautiful green or stuff like that. You'll take photos. But yeah, bit of golf, bit of hiking, sitting there, just vegging out on Netflix or whatever. And
Cool.
yeah.
All right. Well, we need to start thinking about wrapping up. Are there any photographers out there that you think I need to be talking to?
Oh, well, I mentioned Cheryl, but she's a macro photographer. She's a macro photographer, but she does do landscape as well. She'd be a great one. We actually had on our podcast, and she rated very, very well in regards to the views. People have loved hearing about her macro journey. Who else is there? Yeah, I don't know if you had Adam Edwards is good. Jeff Freestone is the other one.
I've had guy for those guys on.
Yeah, have you had Tom on there? Have you brought the ego on?
I haven't had Tom yet. I've got to get
Tom. Yeah, Tom's a lovely guy. What you see is not always what you get with Tom, and he's good to have a chat with. So yeah, we've had some good guys on the show as well. We had Ben Horn, American photographer. Nick Carver is another great guy to interview.
Yeah, haven't got around to Nick yet. But I've spoken to Ben before.
Yeah, Ben's a lovely guy. He's a really lovely guy.
Photographer too.
Yeah, we had Thomas Heaton on our show not long ago as well. He was a bit of a riot. Nice. So yeah, he's open for a chat. So any of those guys, yeah, they're gonna give you some great insights. And as you know, we're all different. We all shoot differently. We all see things differently. And I think that's one big thing about photography. That you hear at every camera club you go to when they're judging stuff. It's all subjective. Yeah. So the landscape photography, as is all photography, it's all subjective. And as I try and tell my customers as well, like I said before, don't stress too much about what people think about your photos. Mm-hmm. Like, grab the photos that you enjoy. And yes, there's some technical things that need to be right and wrong, to get those things right. But don't let some nobody at a camera club tell you that you've done something wrong because they don't like it. If you like it, then that's all that should matter.
That's right.
And if you're enjoying your photography and it's getting you out to places, who cares what everyone thinks?
Yeah.
You could be the worst photographer in the world, but if you're enjoying it, you're probably a better photographer than you think you are. You're probably better off than the guys that keep struggling to try and please other people.
Absolutely. I think one of the things, and I haven't had a massive amount of experience with camera clubs, but one of the things that I keep hearing from people that are either in them or come out of them, mostly from the ones that are coming out of them and saying, is the ability for people to actually give constructive criticism, as opposed to, I don't like that, and here's why.
Yeah, well, that's the thing.
Saying, okay, here's what I would do to improve this, because this is what I think. That's totally fine, but doing it in a way where it is constructive, where you're not actually trying to tear somebody down and say, well, I'm a better photographer than you are.
Yeah.
They're the sorts of attitudes, I think, that camera clubs, unfortunately, some, and it's not all, but some of them can foster some of that. And it is important for people, I think, to learn how to give and also receive constructive criticism around their work.
Yeah. Well, I think that's right. Yeah. One of the great analogies is giving someone that shit sandwich review. So, I've done lots of judging at camera clubs as well. And, you don't go, like, people are putting their work up in front of you. That's daunting enough for it is.
Absolutely.
And then, you've got a professional photographer coming in to judge it. The last thing they want to hear is you just ripping their pictures to pieces.
Yeah.
and walking out of there as if you're all high and mighty. So, I always try and find, as much positive stuff I can out of a photo to feedback, but then I really just focus on those technical things. Look, your horizon's a bit off, or your sharpness looks a little bit off, or, your rule of thirds, your balance is a little bit off, what.
If you haven't nailed some of those technical issues, they're the ones that I think you should focus on.
Yeah, and they're easy fixes. Telling someone to change their entire view on the world is a hard fix. And that's I think that's where some of the camera clubs
some positional choices, editing choices, and whatever, I think is really tough to get into somebody about, because it is a choice that you make.
That's right. Yeah, and it's all subjective.
And it is all subjective, because you're telling the story that you want to tell. You're taking the shot because this is how you feel.
Yeah.
As you said earlier, you're going to get a moody shot because I'm in a moody mood. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. I'm in a crappy mood. And that's the thing. Like, we get a lot of our customers are in camera clubs some way, shape or form. And they always, you can always guarantee every trip they'll say, "What do you think of this shot, Cam?" And you know exactly why they're asking, because last week at the camera club, old Bob, who's been in the camera club for 150 years, didn't like the shot and said something like this or said something like that. And you can just see, the person judging at the time may not see the effect of what they've done, but there's a snowball effect. And
absolutely,
I think people need to be aware of that. We're not there to shoot. Like, we want more people doing photography. We want more people out there having fun. So, like I said, constructive criticism, positives, pick up on some things that maybe are technically off a bit, but, overall, give them a positive experience of what they're doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
My last question, everybody knows: do you like pineapple on pizza?
I do, actually. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Hawaiian pizza is one I don't mind. So, yeah.
That's great. All right. Well, it's been absolutely brilliant talking to you, Cam. Thank you.
Thank you
for being on the show. Where can people find your work?
So most of my work will be on my tasphoto.com.au website. That's where all our workshops and tours are. There's also prints and books and people can buy on there. Otherwise, Instagram, I think my handle is Cam Blake Photography. I think that goes across all the socials. Or if you're in Tassie, just you might see me out wandering around with a camera somewhere, or doing something, having a beer down at Salamanca or whatever it might be, playing golf somewhere. You might be able to find me there as well.
Fantastic. Thanks very much, Cam.
Thanks, Grant. Cheers.
Have you ever been to Tasmania? If so, leave a comment below. I'm really keen to hear what you've got to say. Thanks for listening to Landscape Photography World. I hope you enjoyed the show, and keep listening, because I'll be joined by some great guests in upcoming episodes. You can find my work in this podcast at grantswinburnphotography.com. I'm also on Vero Photo, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and Blue Sky. Don't forget to comment and subscribe, because it really helps to make this podcast get seen and heard. I'm Grant Swinburne, and I hope to see you out shooting soon.